Okay, let's jump right into the deep end. Today, we're looking at something you definitely don't see in typical political analysis.
Not at all. We're diving into sound, into structure.
Yeah.
Our source is this fantastic column that draws a really startling line between the political style of Japanese politician Sanae Takaichi and heavy metal.
Right. It argues that the acoustic skeleton of her whole political identity was basically forged in heavy metal.
It's a brilliant premise. And our mission for you today is to really dissect how that works. Takaichi gets all these labels, conservative, hardline, a fighting woman. But the sources we're analyzing argue this persona isn't just strategy. It's a sensibility, and it comes directly from the music. We're literally going to map metal's structure onto her political actions.
And this is so key. It's not just, what she had on in the background. The sources make it really clear this was formative. She was in a band.
She was in a band, covering Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, loved Judas Priest. This is total cultural immersion.
And not just a phase.
No, it's the architectural foundation.
Yeah.
And the central hook from the column, the idea we have to keep coming back to, is that heavy metal is the art of, and I'm quoting here, passion and construction.
Passion and construction. Okay.
It's where this intense, almost explosive emotion is contained and disciplined by a really rigid mathematical structure. And that cold, disciplined passion we're going to see is the exact mirror of her political style.
Okay, let's unpack that structural theory then, because this is where the column starts treating her political speeches like actual musical compositions, the art of turning chaos into order.
Yep.
So how does the source map the specific parts of a metal song onto what she does politically?
It breaks it down into four really precise parallels. It treats her delivery like an engineered sonic event. The first one is the roar.
The roar. So the initial wave of noise, just the sheer volume.
Exactly. And the music, that's the raw passion, the intensity, maybe the anger.
Yeah.
And politically, that translates directly to her passion for national and cultural defense.
Okay.
That's the emotional engine. It's why she's so fierce in debates. It's that immediate, undeniable blast when the track kicks in.
So if the roar is that initial emotional blast, what holds it all together? Because every metal song, no matter how wild it seems, has that repetitive core.
And that brings us right to the second component. The riff, the hanpuku,
The hook.
the hook. It's that repetitive musical phrase that gives the song its whole identity, And if you think about her policy speeches, this is the repetition structure of policy slogans.
Can you give us an example of that? I mean, it's more than just repeating words, right?
Oh, yeah. It's about using insistence as an anchor for the audience.
Yeah.
She has these core themes like strengthening the national structure, and she just hammers them home relentlessly like a great guitar riff.
So it provides stability?
Total stability.
Yeah.
It tells her base that no matter what other noise is going on, she is always coming back to that core theme. It's a rhythmic, political insistence.
And then you get the moment where the structure seems to just explode outward. The moment of pure technical skill.
That's the third point. That's the solo. Musically, it's that improvisational, visceral, developmental burst.
Right, where the guitarist just shreds.
Exactly. Breaking away from the safety of the riff. In a speech, this is her ability to pivot, to give a sharp, detailed answer under pressure. It's the moment that proves her mastery of the detail.
A burst of intellectual speed.
A burst of rhetorical speed in the middle of this larger structure. And finally, and this is the one that seems so counterintuitive for a loud genre.
Silence.
Silence.
Oh.
The break, or chinmoku.
Yeah.
The controlled pause. It's arguably the most powerful element of all.
Because it makes the sound that comes after it feel even more intense.
That's it. Politically, this is her control of timing and breathing. The monotoricata. It's knowing when to pause, when to let the audience absorb the riff before she hits them with the next solo.
The space between the words.
Yes. It shows the passion isn't just wild shouting. It's being consciously deployed.
This is where it gets really fascinating for me. This idea that her speeches are basically word music. It's not about the message alone. It's the architectural integrity of the delivery itself.
And that framework is essential, but now we have to move from the composition, the sheet music, to the instrument itself, her voice.
Yes, the source gets incredibly technical here.
It really does. It details her specific vocal quality. Her speaking voice is distinctively low, it's stable, grounded in the mid-low frequency range. Specifically, the source pins it right around 170 to 180 hertz.
Wow. Analyzing a politician by their dominant sound frequency, that is specific, what does 170 to 180 hertz actually tell us?
It tells us about stability. When a voice stays in such a narrow band with very little pitch fluctuation, it sounds incredibly grounded, resonant. The analysis likened it to the steel control of a great metal vocalist.
So this challenges that simple label of just aggressive.
Completely.
The source is arguing her strength is this deliberate, calm control, not just being loud.
Yes, aggression is chaos. This is discipline.
Mhm.
And there's a key quote here. Voice is the technique to make emotions resonate without letting them run wild.
A steel structure in politics. The stability of the voice anchors the passion of the message.
And this also draws a really powerful parallel to how women operate within this aesthetic. The column positions her as embodying steel elegance.
And they reference a specific artist, right?
They do. They name Angela Gasso from Arch Enemy, who is famous for her incredibly powerful but highly controlled harsh vocals. Immense power, but with perfect stability.
And the metaphor that ties this all together is that she is the lead vocalist of the band called The Nation. Her authority comes from her mastery of the sound. She sets the tone.
It's an assertion that her effectiveness comes from applying that same disciplined rigor you need to front a technically demanding band. Every note, every pause is intentional.
Okay, let's pivot from the structure of her delivery to the actual content. Metal deals with these huge foundational themes: myth, war, religion, death. What specific policy areas does the column connect to that aesthetic?
Well, the structure informs the subject matter. The analysis links this sensibility directly to the issues she prioritizes: national defense, cultural defense, and freedom of expression.
So high-stakes existential topics.
Exactly. The political equivalent of the themes in the deepest metal lyrics. Her focus isn't just conservative defense of what exists, but a constructive ideology aimed at the establishment of spiritual identity.
Which brings us to this fascinating paradox. I mean, heavy metal is the music of rebellion, right? Anti-establishment. And Takaichi is a high-ranking, traditional, conservative politician. How does the source reconcile that?
The column argues the common ground isn't ideology. It's the aesthetics within strength. It's the goal of establishing order to break order.
Okay, say more about that. Order to break order.
Well, think about it. Metal uses a really rigid musical structure, the meticulous riffs and solos. That's the order. But it uses that order to deliver this explosive, rebellious energy.
So the structure is conservative, even if the message feels radical.
Precisely. Her politics uses meticulous logic and institutional structure, the order to deliver a strong, often provocative agenda. The discipline of the form lets her tackle these explosive topics without it all just falling into chaos.
Which brings us back to that amazing quote from the source. True heat lies within cold construction. That just sums it all up.
It really does. The heat is the passion, but the cold construction is that disciplined 170 hertz voice, the repeated policy riff, the controlled pause.
And we can see this in her actual policies, right? When she was Minister of Internal Affairs and Communications.
You absolutely can. She focused consistently on creator rights protection and cultural sovereignty. And this philosophy is rooted directly in the DIY spirit of metal.
The DIY spirit, like bands putting out their own records, protecting their own sound.
Exactly. Bands that operate outside the mainstream, fighting to protect their intellectual property without relying on big corporations.
So she's basically scaling that independent artist ethic up to the national level.
That's the argument. Her policy framework was designed to make sure the nation has its own strong cultural infrastructure, to defend the nation's sound from being diluted by outside forces. It's the same principle.
That makes the policy make so much more sense. Okay, to ground all this for you, let's get into the deep cuts, the actual music that shaped this worldview.
Yeah, this part is vital because it explains why the structure is so stable. She was listening to the bands that were literally writing the blueprint.
So to start with the architects. Black Sabbath.
Right. I mean, Sabbath established that gravity. You listen to their first album from 1970 with the church bells. That's the ominous high-stakes atmosphere.
Yeah.
But then look at Master of Reality in 71.
Drop D tuning.
Drop D tuning. It fundamentally lowers the guitar's tone. It gives the music this profound, heavy, bottom-end power.
And how does that connect back to her politics?
That low, stable, powerful register. It's a mirror of her focus on non-negotiable foundational topics like national defense. It's the musical way of saying the bass must be secure. It's the acoustic version of her 170 hertz voice.
And then there's Deep Purple, adding that layer of technical complexity.
Deep Purple in rock is so important because it proved metal wasn't just raw power. It could have classical composition, real complexity. That's the technical rigor applied to passion. It aligns perfectly with her reputation as a policy wonk who gets into the weeds.
And her favorite, Judas Priest, who kind of refined the whole thing, made it sharper, faster.
Priest established the modern precision. On Sad Wings of Destiny from '76, you get the origin of the twin-laid guitar sound.
Right.
And that's about two separate complex parts working together in perfect harmony. Politically, that represents her ability to deploy these harmonized policy arguments like national defense and cultural defense working together. It's layered, precise complexity.
You can really hear the echoes of all of that precision, control, structure in those albums. So let's put this on a timeline for everyone.
Sure. So the musical foundation comes first. She's absorbing all this music, especially Judas Priest, around 1980. Then, crucially, she enters the Matsushita Institute in 1984, bringing that sensibility with her before she even gets into politics.
And that framework just sticks with her.
Completely consistent. By 2002, as a minister, she's applying that DIY spirit to complex broadcast policy. And as recently as the 2021 LDP presidential election, the centerpiece of her platform was literally cultural defense creative support.
The framework has been her operational guide for her entire career.
It seems so.
This has been a true deep dive. Okay, let's synthesize this. What is the ultimate takeaway from viewing her political style through this lens?
The ultimate synthesis is that her political career is basically a perfectly structured metal track. It starts with a quiet, logical intro, builds on the anchoring riff of her core themes, erupts with a passionate technical solo in her policy responses, and ends with a return to order. Her defining quality is the intelligence that controls passion.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Well, the source suggests that just as metal accepts noise to evolve, mature politics has to internalize dissonance to get stronger.
And her presence in Japanese politics kind of symbolizes that acceptance of noise, not as chaos, but as creative distortion. She brings a structured intensity that challenges the old consensus, but from within a framework built by Black Sabbath.
It really redefines what a conservative politician can sound like. Which leaves us with one final provocative thought. It's based on the source's observation that quietness is the only place from which new sound can be born. If Takaichi's politics is an attempt to reconsider politics that lives like sound, what other sounds can you identify in other leaders? Leaders whose styles might be built on a hidden structure just beneath the surface. The next time you listen to a political speech, maybe stop analyzing the words for a second.
And try to find the riff.
Yeah.
Or listen for the frequency of the voice. There's always a structure there if you listen closely enough.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.